Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another ShareWise webinar. My name's Harry McCaskill, one of the senior advisors here at ShareWise. We're one of Sydney's share advisory firms. We're based in Milsons Point. Today, we are very, very excited. We've got Herbert Koeck, the Managing Director from Titomic, with us. He's going to go through a couple of key projects and key ideas that have been happening behind the scenes at the business, for new or current shareholders, and anyone looking to get a little bit more information on Titomic. But Herbert, I just want to personally thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man. But the structure today, it will be a little bit of a presentation from Herbert's end, and then I urge anyone who has any questions throughout just to drop them in the chat box or the Q&A section so I can jump in and ask any throughout. And then will be time for a Q&A at the end. But it obviously gives you the opportunity to ask him any questions you've got about TTT. But Herbert, again, thanks for your time, and I'll let you take it away.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
First of all, let me share out an introduction and what we are doing to give you an idea on all about what is Titomic all about.
Yeah.
And as a starting point, you may have heard about it quite some time. And let me go to presentation mode here. That this is big and clear for.
Yeah, we can see that's working.
That's great.
Perfect.
At Titomic, we are integrating cold spray technologies, combine it with robotics and software to provide an integrated system which we are trying to get into customers' manufacturing areas. And I don't know how many of you have heard about cold spray and what it is all about. At the end of the day, and you will see it in a presentation on a chart right now here, this is the kind of machinery which is the base of our technology. We are taking a metal powder, accelerate that metal powder to literally supersonic speed, and when that stream of metal particles get pushed through a nozzle and they bump against the scaffold or a substrate, the particles, because of the high kinetic energy they carry, start to bond with each other and form a metal part.
Right.
Phenomenon, but it really works well because contrary to some other additive manufacturing technologies, we do have little to no limitation on one side of the size of parts we can produce, because the reach of the spray gun we are using is only limited by the reach of the robot arm on one side. And on the other side, another big differentiation and a goodie for cold spray, if you would like to say so, is that we can depose basically 4 to 5 kilograms per hour, for example, on titanium. Well, traditional additive manufacturing is working with 500 grams per hour, 600 grams per hour. So we have a 10x advantage in terms of speed. These two things, if you think about it, now you may wonder what can these two things be used for. And I want to give you a summary here, what these things can be used for. On one side, you can use the technology to produce metal components, metal parts. Very fast, large parts. If you would like to say so, is in that case, we are somehow in competition with that process of casting and forging. A big advantage, especially because when you dig into the details, for example, on titanium casting, it's very complex, very expensive. As for every mold of a casted part, you need to use either graphite or zirconium, while we can spray titanium. So the speed and the size advantage is really great. That's one category of applications where cold spray can be used for. The other area of where cold spray can be used for is you can replace, service, and repair existing metal components. So for example, parts of an airplane wing, parts of a caterpillar, parts or a shaft of an electromotor for the railways in Melbourne, which we are repairing on a regular basis, get worn over time, especially in the places where they've been held by the bearings. Now they're bringing these shafts to us. We are basically spraying metal onto the existing shaft and doing a repair of that kind. And after basically machining it back to the original geometry, they can put that motor back into the system and the machine is repaired. So in a nutshell, two large categories where cold spray is really working. One area in the production of titanium, Invar, Inconel parts, fast and large. And on the other side, it can be used to repair existing metal equipment.
And just to jump in there, Herbert, what is the unique advantage that Titomic has, in the industry? And what would you say stands out the most regarding your cold spray systems and your technologies?
What stands out the most at the end of the day is, as we have started to commercialize cold spray technology 7 years ago, I would claim that we are absolutely the most advanced, ahead of anyone by years when it comes to the production of the parts. In the service and repair area, you're finding a couple of other companies which are trying to do the same things. But when it comes to the production of the parts, Titomic is really unique across the globe. First thing.
Thank you.
Big advantage, obviously, also is on the production process itself. It's the speed with which these parts can be produced. Okay? We're having customers where we are producing pressure vessels or big valves out of titanium, which can be produced in a couple of hours, posting 5 kilos an hour, while in additional casting, it would take them months to get these products. Specific examples you're seeing in the chart, which I'm sharing out right now. Okay, and it's important. I want to highlight the two on the right-hand side because they are typical examples of what cold spray can do in this manufacturing world. On one side, the third image, the second one from the right, is a pressure vessel. It's a titanium tank. These kind of products are used, for example, in space because they can carry fuselage in satellites, in rockets, but obviously also in missiles. Very important because the traditional way to produce these components is cumbersome and expensive. And on the far right-hand side of that chart, you're seeing an Inconel barrel, something which is the base, the joint venture we have with a company in Turkey called Redcon, which we have formed 1.5 years ago, and which we are setting up the machinery right now to get into the barrel manufacturing. And it's a kind of a hybrid manufacturing. So they are using their flow forming technology, and we are strengthening then the barrels to hold basically the explosion and the blast of a shot. The other story is, and this is also important, when you go into, and let me go down to this thing here. These are the service and repair machines we have. These are Titomic's developments. These machines came into the company with our acquisition of Titomic in Europe. They have been designing the machines. They have been working with these machines for years. One of the largest customers, the largest customers, to say it that way, we have in this area is actually Airbus. Airbus, after we have been working with them over 4 years, where they get convinced that cold spray is a viable, cost-effective and efficient way to repair some of the damages on an airplane, have dented the whole process. Titomic has won it last year, and they awarded already with the first machine sales. Now, at this stage, we are working with Airbus in qualifying the different repair cases, because every repair case in aerospace has to be qualified and certified. And after that one, and I'll leave it up to your own fantasy, as soon as we are certified, one of our machines is needed in every repair center across the globe where cold spray is set up and where the repair mechanism is approved by Airbus. So that's the reason why we are doing this. Okay, we need to qualify one machine to get many machines out at a later stage in all the repair centers. Right. All one which you see on the right in the middle is, for example, a machine where we got awarded recently, also announced a very small deal for a lease of this machine with Woodside, a big player in the oil and gas industry. And now one of these machines is going to an oil rig because at the end of the day, it can do the job which traditionally welding is used. And by doing so, at the end of the day, we can qualify certain repairs on the oil rigs. And I haven't to tell you Why we are doing this? Because there are literally hundreds of oil rigs across the globe, in the Northern Sea, in Asia, in Latin America. And at the end of the day, if we are qualified, there is the use of one of these machines, at least on every oil rig across the globe. Woodside, by the way, is also working closely together on the technology side with Equinor. And just my chairman and I have been on a seminar with Equinor 4 weeks ago in Norway, and they are also highly interested in getting the test results, obviously from Woodside, because they have engaged with us a couple of months earlier. On the far right, and then I close on that topic, and then I'm available for questions and answers, is another system we have developed where we have already a prototype shown at some of the defense trade shows across the globe. It's a project where you have a mobile unit which can be carried by an engineer or a soldier, where you're bringing basically the machinery to the place where the repairs have to be done. So in situ, you're bringing the machines out, it's battery powered. And what you can do there is you can repair immediately some damages which happen on certain equipment which is out there. So before opening for questions and answers and being available for a question from your side, let me summarize on Titomic. So first of all, we are a company which is based in Melbourne in Australia. As you know, we are listed at the ASX. We're having a strong foothold already as of today in Akron, which is in the Netherlands. And at this stage, we also are quickly expanding into the US market. Why the US market? I haven't to tell you, it's simply the biggest market in the world, especially in the defense world. It's bigger than anything else. At the same time, we have beefed up our go-to-market organization in the US. At this stage, we have hired Dr. Betty Teer, who sits in Huntsville, who's a senior executive from Boeing and from Northrop Grumman in the past. Now she's working for Titomic. We are working with a company called Dees, which is also an aggregation of senior executives from Boeing, from Northrop Grumman, from General Dynamics, from MBDA, and they're all located in Huntsville. So I'm spending personally quite some time in the US recently. With that one, I'd like to stop also my sharing here. And Harry, I would be available for questions.
Herbert, it sounds like there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it is a very, very exciting process. I had one, obviously, you just mentioned a partnership you have or a collaboration you have with one business, but can you talk a little bit more about any other strategic partnerships you have at the moment, and, you know, any potentially in the pipeline that you've been looking at?
I can't talk about anything in the pipeline, okay? But at the same time, I can tell you, when you see the most recent successes which we had actually $8 million on orders just in the last 4 months, which came in. We were closing out on the fiscal year with almost $8 million on revenue. When you look there further into the details of the books, actually we recognized the revenue in July for 2 deals, which technically we're supposed to happen on revenue in June, but we missed it by a couple of days. Shame on that part. But it's still so that at the end of the day, we got everything going for these deals in the old fiscal year. Just the paperwork and some of customer requirements at the end of the day brought the revenue into this year. But we ended up at 7.9, which is a huge, we more than doubled customer receipts from last year. And at this point in time, with the $8 million on orders, backlog is extremely full. At this time, I have to say, we have all the financials in place to go through fiscal year 25 with the budgets we have set. And, we are working day in, day out to get this going.
Excellent.
It's super exciting because now we are getting more and more customers now coming to us and saying is, hey, I've heard you're doing this and that. Can you show what you're doing here? Show, because different than 2-3 years ago where we didn't have the data to show the material properties and what we can do, now we can.
Excellent. And it's that sort of snowball effect as well. You know, people start talking and then
absolutely,
then they start coming to you, which is exciting. On the topic of the financial performance and growth, what's Titomic's financial goals for the next few years? And how do you plan, and what are the strategic goals in order to achieve them? What are the plans?
Well, obviously we are not disclosing, not giving a financial forecast on the budget for the actual fiscal year. At the same time, let's be honest on that one. Our goal has to be that first step is to get cash flow neutral and positive, so that we are standing on our own feet and don't need further injections from the market overall. And then obviously drive profitability. And this will come in 2 steps. And these 2 things are going to come as a direct function of growing revenue.
So and then obviously to improve profitability, you're trying to reduce costs. So what are the processes there, and what are the key strategies you're implementing?
Well, you may have observed, after we had a situation at the beginning of last calendar year, where we found out that based on the geopolitical situation across the globe, the climate seems to get tightening, and a lot of customers seem to delay some of the investment decisions on their own. We immediately made the decision that we are doing a reorganization, which was executed last year in May and in June. So we brought the cost structure significantly down. Actually, we reduced cost structure by 1/3. That had consequences. Obviously, we tried to do it in a wise way in the sense of you want to cut basically on administrative costs. You want to cut on costs which are not directly related to the execution of the project you're in. Respectively, you also not want to cut you in the area where the future growth is coming from. Okay, so that was executed. That has helped us. And at this stage, we are in the situation that we are executing in the project where we also getting paid from customers. Could we accelerate one or the other project going forward if there would be additional funding available? Absolutely, but that's not the point. The point is that we have everything in place to go through the fiscal year with the goal to get to cash flow neutrality and to get to profitability in the new year.
And then that's the first plan, and then obviously you regroup from there and move forward one step at a time, as they would say. And then I guess if we look at, because there's a lot of positives from all this. There's a lot of really, really exciting things coming out, which, I've been following you guys for a long time now. What are the key risks for those who don't know much about it and much about the industry, the additive manufacturing industry? What do you see the key risks are and the key trends at the moment?
A good question. So first of all, let me start with the trends, because somehow my nature is that I'm looking on the positives first on that side. But the major trend at the end of the day is the whole geopolitical situation in the world is changing the supply chain products. Okay, things, transportation, logistics costs have gone dramatically, and today we are finding customers who have to rethink the way they maintain and service their equipment, because in the traditional way that they take out basically the part and replace it by a new one is simply not working for them anymore. Either because they can't afford it, or the new part isn't available anytime soon. Okay, we know, for example, in the defense world, that some of the equipment is grounded, for example, and potentially cannot fly because a part is out there for 12 to 15 months. Think about the overall damage of what that does for the equipment. Okay, that's one thing. So that's a kind of that change in the supply chain is a kind of a tailwind for us. The kind of a headwind for us is more and more customers obviously see the need and being forced to change the manufacturing setup. But at the end of the day, are even more reluctant to do something wrong. Okay, so in some of the projects, you see this kind of paradoxon, I would say, that on one side you see them, they need to change. On the other side, they are super suspicious. They are asking even more questions that they can be sure that the new process they are potentially signing on is really delivering on the results.
Right.
So some very large primes, we are having hosting one of these companies almost every week here in Melbourne and in Holland, which is great, which shows that they have a need to change. At the same time, it shows that they want to have assurance that this innovative process we are sitting on is delivering on the results which we are promising.
Yeah. And on the topic of obviously customers, right? Because like you said, there's some headwinds there potentially. But what are the main strategies of TTT to acquiring new customers and, expanding that customer base? Is it a lot of word of mouth, or is it, you've got a team on deck that is going out there doing presentations, or what is the main focus?
Word of mouth is always working. Okay, that's one thing. Obviously, where I'm in a lucky situation as managing director, that I also have a super active board in place. Okay, I have a board member, actually my chairman of the board, who sits just next door because he's visiting us in Australia here, who is Norwegian, who works with Morgan Stanley, who comes from the financing world, who knows companies like Equinor in Norway, whom he connected me with, where I just was up there 3 weeks ago. Okay, and I have a board member who sits in Washington, D.C., former Undersecretary of Defense in Washington, who knows basically the defense world in the US and makes these kind of connections. Then I have a board member who is at the same time the CEO of EOS, another Australian company, who sits in Canberra in the Middle East.
Yep.
And who is basically, we're engaging and saying is, hey, there is this that they are looking for. So there's a lot of engagement on the board. And third, and this is the most important source of where we are getting into new customers, over time, over the last 2 years, we really have refined our marketing approach. Okay, so we are not going out to these kind of generic trade shows anymore. We are going specifically on industry segment focused trade shows. For example, we are going on a defense show. We are going on a show which is out for refurbishments of machinery, the proper part, because we know we talk their language. That has raised a lot of attention, and obviously funnel is growing, which is great, and will yield business results going forward.
Yeah, excellent. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. Word of mouth always works. Then you've got your networks. Your net worth is your networks, right? And then you obviously you've got the external things there. So I think you've got all bases covered there. And I think another question a lot of people are really, really interested in and are always, as shareholders, curious about is, when it comes to the balance sheets, is there any, potential for non-dilutive capital raises in the future? If so, what's your stance on that?
So first of all, there's obviously nothing is decided.
Yeah, of course.
The point is, given the budget we have, as I said to you, we are properly funded to execute along that budget. If a customer at the end of the day would come back and at this point in time want us to build up a manufacturing site in the US with a cost of $15 million at this point in time, we would need to work with that customer on one side, giving us the guarantee there is a proper order behind, and then us turning around to either banks or investors to say, hey, is there a willingness to fund that one so that we can accelerate it?
Yeah.
So any need based on customer orders could drive need for certain capital. And in further consequence, then the question is, how do we get that capital?
Yeah.
Is it a loan? Is it a credit? Depending on whatever is most efficient.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
Right. So it just play it by ear, you could say.
But at this point in time, we want to play, and as I can see at the moment, we are playing for growth.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
Accelerate growth. Always, but at the end, we are pretty damn good also in knowing what we have and money where it has the highest efficiency.
Yeah, of course. And Herbert, I guess just to cover any last points, is there any last comments you want to make to anyone listening today that I think that is important to know? Any recent announcements that have come out recently that people should know about? And if so, just put it out there.
Yeah, the one message I want to leave everyone with is fundamentally, I'm now a little bit more than 3 years together with Titomic. Okay, and I can tell you, first of all, it was an interesting ride, not always easy. But what has fundamentally changed over the course of this period was 3 years ago, we tried to define ourselves what kind of solutions and products we have. Today, we are defining ourselves via the solutions which we have and getting out to a broad set of customers where we know what value proposition we have. Okay, so we really learn on one side who we are, what we can do, what we can't do, more importantly in some cases. And at this point in time, we are really working hard for further growth. And for multiple of the projects we are in, we have been working with these customers now for a year. And we are, to say it in a different way, an inch away from big stories. And that's just exciting and makes fun also for myself.
Well, Herbert, it's like I said to you at the start, it is very, very exciting, and I've been following the story for a long time, and it has developed a lot of positive changes. I'm excited to see what the future has for Titomic. Again, I want to thank you for your time. Busy man, busy schedule. So we
Thank
found
you
a
for
spot.
having me.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But if anyone has any questions, be sure to reach out to Sharewise or Herbert. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to have a conversation. This is recorded, so if you've missed any, it will be on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure on TTT's socials as well. But thank you everyone for watching another Sharewise webinar, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
No worries.